Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 10, another 7 curious interesting things I saw last week, so let's crack on. The first one is the Arkite hymn, or it's the human interface mate. So this is a bit old school, this is kind of augmented reality for reality. So this is an example with Volvo cars. You can see a technician here putting on some struts under the bonnet or hood, whatever you want to call it. And as you can see, it's highlighting exactly where to go. You tap on the thing for the next step, it'll tell you need some tape, and it'll say where you need the tape. It'll now have highlighted where the tape needs to go, for instance. So it's really interesting how you can guide essentially lower skilled technicians. You don't need to be an expert in what goes next because the computer is doing that for you. So this can be applied to all sorts of things, obviously everything from manufacturing, production lines, to probably cake shops or installation of kit within the home, that sort of thing. So just thought it was really interesting. So that's the Arkite hymn. Binance and especially Coinbase are coming under a little bit of fire because of their stance on sanctions to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So I thought this was really interesting because it really goes into the heart of cryptocurrency. It isn't necessarily an untraceable currency, and any large transactions that go onto the blockchain are basically public to everybody, so you can see whether people are putting lots and lots of money onto it or not. The whole point is, as lots of banks are restricting or putting sanctions on transactions in Russia, a lot of the big cryptocurrency exchanges have said, well, we're not going to do that. It's not really our job to restrict ordinary citizens' access to investment or money. I.e., the whole point of crypto is to really go against control from politics and central government, and especially sort of money and banks. So it's kind of really interesting at the moment that you know, the whole point of crypto is now being sort of looked upon with quite a lot of scrutiny. Coinbase have said, look, you know, if there is a government doctrine here and we are told to do it, we will do it, of course, which then for is quite interesting. Not only the IRS, so that sort of Inland Revenue, etc. in the States, are really cracking down on paying tax through cryptocurrency or from your cryptocurrency. Also, it might be then start to come under the guise of you know, law and international boundaries, which is exactly what crypto was set up not to be. So it's kind of interesting to watch that at the moment, something to look at. Now this caught my eye only because I've seen some of these things before and they didn't end well. However, this takes a different approach. So these are some researchers who have created a machine learning or sort of AI model that can actually create what they call an emotional fingerprint for Reddit posts. And the aim here is to actually detect or what they call emotional disorders such as depression, anxiety and bipolar disorder. So this is different to normal, I guess, detection algorithms in that they usually use keywords. So for instance, if a lot of people are talking about COVID and how bad they've had it and they're not feeling particularly great about it, you might also get caught up in a research paper about COVID that might also be basically categorized with the same sort of thing. So this one actually goes a step further and learns as it goes. Now the point of this is really to essentially find people or to help people that may need some help, or at least sort of detect that sort of thing. Where I've seen this go a little bit awry before is, well, you know, what right have you got to even assume that somebody might have this or not, or even, you know, what do you do with the information once you do have it? Do you contact them? Do you tell other people, etc., etc.? So it's kind of interesting, and therefore, where might this go next? If your posts are being essentially categorized or fingerprinted for emotions, who else might find that really interesting? So I thought that was quite an interesting bit of research. It's a new way of doing it. It's a slightly better way of doing it, but to what end? There you go. Kodi. Now Kodi, if you don't know what a Kodi box is, I think it's an Android-based box. So it's a little bit of box. It's kind of about the size of I don't know, a stack of Post-it notes or something like that, really. But it's a bit of hardware, and on that piece of hardware you can install add-ons. Now, in its own right, a Kodi box is normal. Okay, you can watch, for instance, YouTube videos which are free to watch. That's absolutely fine. You plug it into your TV and it becomes essentially like a small programmable set-top box. Now the only problem is you can actually also get access to illegal streams, so people can put what are called add-ons onto them, and you can then watch everything from essentially Game of Thrones all the way through to pay TV events. Now in 2017 there was a sort of a group, a conglomerate of Canadian content owners who took one of the add-on repositories. So this is basically a place where you can get all the add-ons from. They took them to court and said, you are essentially making everybody access illegal content for free, and therefore that's our content and it's paid content and we need some money for that. It has finally been settled, so that's taken what, 5 years, something like that, and TV add-ons have to pay, I think it's something like 25 million Canadian dollars, which is about 15 million pounds. So this is sort of, and these are sort of things are waning now. So it's quite interesting that this was used to be the Badlands of where you got all your dodgy content, and now actually there's been a bit of a crackdown. We're starting to see actual people having actual fines. So yeah, quite interesting that is now coming under the sort of the guise of law enforcement, really. There you go. Spinning sound waves are a thing, or at least theoretically they're a thing. So scientists have now proved that you can now rotate sound waves. Normally sound waves are essentially percussion. Imagine a spring going in and out. Now if you try to drive anything, like imagine a turbine, i.e. a fan in a tube, because the sound waves are going in and out, every time you shot a sound wave down a tube it would spin the turbine, but as the sound wave then compressed the other way, it would spin the turbine the other way, so it would basically wobble the turbine and you couldn't actually drive anything with it. Now they've figured out, at least theoretically, that you can actually impart angular momentum to sounds. So obviously this is called elastic orbital angular momentum. Now why is this interesting? One, well, it just kind of is, and secondly, what it allows you to do is impart movement through sound into liquids and in a constant way, and also you can do that to solids. So for instance, you could actually use it for mixing, but likewise you can use it to levitate objects, which is interesting. Likewise you can use sound to create mechanical rotation, i.e. Generators. So anyway, this is just interesting. Usually you need something mechanical to turn something mechanical, and now you can use sound to do that. There you go, which is actually pushing sound through the air, which is kind of mechanical. Anyway, it's kind of interesting in that you can now rotate sound waves. Project Nexus, this is a solar canal. So this is in California, I think Southern California. So this is the TID, which is the Turlock Irrigation District. Now what's going on here is, as you can see by the description, that Western US is actually in a huge drought, so the biggest drought in 1,200 years. Now it gets a lot of the water for California from the mountains, from snowfall, etc., etc. 2% of that is actually evaporated as it comes down the canals. There's another problem with the canals is they can have plant growth in them, which further restricts water flow, etc., etc. So this really neat idea is you put solar panels across the canals. The solar panels are therefore in what would have been wasted land anyway, so you don't have to use cropland for solar panels, and likewise it reduces all the evaporation. And it also has lots of other benefits as well. The water underneath the panels cools the panels, which makes them more efficient, and all sorts of things, and also stops plants growing in the water as well. So it's really cool. So they're doing a demo. I think they're doing a mile as a test, so we'll see how that goes, but I thought that was really interesting, sort of just slightly off the wall thinking, but I like it. And finally, obviously we hear lots of things about NFTs, and they usually, you sit there with your head in your hands and you think, why on earth is that a thing? So I thought it was really nice. It's the first thing that I can kind of see makes sense as an NFT, just as a frivolous NFT. So these are available on Super Rare, and I'm probably going to absolutely get this name wrong, but I'm going to say it's Vit Ozevsky. Let's say Ozzelski. There you go, that's close enough. However, Polish 3D artist, who makes these really beautiful dioramas. So these are beautifully detailed. You can zoom into them and you can see all the snowflakes, you can see the footprints. They're all completely looping. So you know, if you zoomed in, you can see the snowball fight going on forever. The river has flow in it, all sorts of really cool stuff. So I think these are really beautiful. The amount of work that's gone into these is well kind of worth, quote unquote, what you would pay for the NFT rather than just a GIF of something funky. So there, I just thought I'd stop with those. I'm seeing more and more of these sort of art projects that are sort of, you could see them as a virtual reality project or an augmented reality or a hologram project, but if you owned one of these, this would be beautiful in 20 years time when we all have holographic knickknacks in the middle of our coffee tables at home to show the visitors how cool we are. So there you go. Anyway, I thought those were cool. NFTs available on Super Rare. There you go. With that, we are done. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully it was useful. Give it a like if you thought it was, and I will see you next week.